Hello. In this recording, we are going to discuss the current status of independent contractors in California. There are currently 3 tests in California to determine who is an independent contractor. The first is the AB5 test, also known as the Dynamex test or the ABC test. It's called the ABC test because it has 3 parts. A, the amount of control exerted by the hiring entity over the worker. B, whether the worker is engaged in the same usual course of business as the hiring entity. And C, whether the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business. The next test is the common law test, also known as the Borello test. This has been in place in California for over 20 years. It's a balancing test where we evaluate multiple factors, with the primary factor being control. And then third, since Prop 22 passed, rideshare and delivery app-based drivers are now independent contractors under that law. So what we'll go through next is the factors pertaining to the ABC test and the exemptions. However, if someone falls within an exemption to the AB5 ABC test, we then look at the common law test to determine whether or not they are an independent contractor. Under the common law test, we have the primary factor of control, and then we have the secondary factors: the extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the employer's business, the opportunity for profit or loss by the worker, depending on how they decide to do the job, provision of facilities and equipment, the worker's skill and initiative and how that impacts their earning ability, the length of the relationship between the independent contractor and the hiring entity, and the nature of the relationship, meaning what did the parties think they were entering into, an employment relationship or an independent contractor relationship? Now we're moving on to the AB5 test. The AB5 law and the ABC test has several specified exceptions. There are specified occupations, professional services, real estate agents and repossession agencies, business service providers, the construction industry, specifically subcontractors, referral agencies, and motor clubs. So these are the exceptions that were listed in AB5, and we'll also include some of those updates that broadened those. But if your worker falls within one of these exceptions, then they revert to the balancing test, the common law Borello test. If they don't meet one of these exceptions, then you evaluate whether they're an independent contractor using the AB5 factors, the ABC factors. So specified occupations includes, for example, insurance brokers, physicians, surgeons, dentists, podiatrists, psychologists, and veterinarians, lawyers, architects, engineers, private investigators and accountants, securities broker dealers, investment advisors and their agents, and direct salespersons. Professional services, the next category of exemptions, includes marketing, those who provide original and creative work, human resources professionals, travel agents, graphic designers, grant writers, fine artists, performers, songwriters, composers, and other similar professions, musicians and vocalists, enrolled agents licensed to practice before the IRS, payment processing agents, photographers and photojournalists, freelance writers, and estheticians, electrologists, manicurists, barbers, or cosmetologists. Each year, we will probably see some variation and extensions of the number and of professional service providers covered by the exception. In addition to falling into one of those categories we just listed, to fall within the professional services exemption, a worker must also maintain a business location separate from the hiring entity, must have a business license, must set or negotiate their own rates, must set their own work hours, must do this type of work for other businesses, for example, a bookkeeper who may work for 6 businesses in their local community, and must exercise discretion and independence on how they carry out their work. The next category of exceptions is business service providers. They must also be free from the control and direction of the hiring entity. They have to provide this service to businesses, not the business's customers directly, provide services pursuant to a written contract, have a license if that's required for their business, maintain a separate business location, be engaged in a business of the same nature as the work performed, provide similar services to others and advertise that service, provide tools and equipment of their own, negotiate their own rates, set their own and location of work. And this also has been expanded to include those that provide business services to single engagement events. So these are businesses that are providing something that may be integral to a business, but that is a service that one business is providing to another. Referral agencies is the next exception category I wanted to cover. A referral agency is a business that connects clients with service providers for providing graphic design, photography, tutoring. There's quite a long list here. I won't read them all to you. They're on the slide. Also, it includes now this year youth sports coaching, consulting, event planning, and event vendors, and interpreters. And they also must meet similar requirements to other exceptions, have their own business location, have a written contract, provide their own tools and services, etc. I just want to say at the end of this presentation that the categories that you through in evaluating whether one of your workers is an independent contractor is to look at whether they fall one of the AB5 exceptions, and then go on to the next step if they do, and determine whether they're an independent contractor under those balancing factors we discussed under the common law test. Thank you. I hope this was helpful in giving you an idea of how to evaluate your independent contractors.